New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Welcome to Ministers Talking a weekly program where Rev Briz and Rev Z and their guests chat about current affairs, Welcome to Ministers Talking a weekly program where Rev Briz and Rev Z and their guests chat about current affairs, world events, spiritual principles, and any old they want to talk about. Based on the New Thought philosophy and ancient wisdoms, Ministers Talking shares a visionary perspective of the evolving spiral called spiritual living. Join us each week as we explore the emerging paradigm of life on planet Earth and beyond.
And hello again, dear ones. Dr. Robert Wadleigh over here.
Michelle Wadleigh here, and I'm happy to be back.
And we're very happy to have you. This is Ministers Talking Shit for Friday, August. I wanted to say January. My mind is skipping a little beat there. So it's August 23rd, 2024. Rev Z is in Dallas with family. And so we tapped the shoulder of our great and dear friend, Reverend Dr. Michelle Wadleigh, a.k.a. Rev Jersey Girl, to join us this morning and have some conversations. How you doing, dear one?
I'm doing good. I always love being here, especially on this show, because I feel like it gives me a license to be the Jersey girl in me. So it's always a fun thing. You know, I sat at the bedside of I still do some pastoral care with people from the community that I left. You know, when you love people, you don't just walk away. And I sat at the bed of someone the other day who is, you know, dealing with some very serious health issues. And we were chatting and I was giving her a little guidance and a little support and this and that. And then at some point I used the F-bomb, and she turns to her sister who's sitting there and she says to her, "I told you she wasn't a regular minister." But, you know, it's so I love, so this show for me represents what it's like to be human and spiritual like this.
Right.
You know, yeah, which is just great. Just great. So
I love that. Thank you. That's a great little story. I told you she wasn't a regular.
You know, I guess she didn't want her being too shocked.
Well, and you know, that's a great segue because number one, you've got a new book coming out. I want to talk about that. And I think that part of what I have loved about your work and now that you've left the pulpit, as it were, and have a new focus of your ministry, your work really does strike me as that blending of the human and the divine in a really powerful way that is absolutely necessary. And now, folks that are, you know, if you're a normal viewer of this program, you know, we normally talk about the news of the day, and don't worry, we're going to get to all of that. But I do want to talk about Dr. Michelle's book, because I saw a meme last night while I was watching the DNC. I was scrolling Facebook and might have been trolling a few people that like to raise hell. And I saw this meme, and it was somebody holding somebody's eyes wide open, you know, like forcefully holding somebody's eyes wide open. And it said, "The nation's being forced to look at our shadow, whether we like it or not."
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's a lot of what your new book is all about. And I do want to kind of tie that in when we get to talking about politics a little later. But let's hear about the book first. I've got one on order. It's on pre-order on Amazon, and I've got one in my name just waiting for him to print it and all that. But tell us more.
Yeah, and I got to put a plug here because the first week of the book is so important. If y'all who are listening go to michellewadleigh.com, there is a place where you can pre-order the book and get a free gift. Get another book, and then there's a free coaching that's going to come. So it's michellewadleigh.com and you can get that. This is the book, Shadow Work: A Spiritual Path to Healing and Integration. And I'm excited about it. There's promise that it's going to do really well because there's been a lot of pre-orders from organizations. It's being printed in Taiwan and it's being printed in Brazil. I mean, yeah. So already it's starting out being printed in 3 different languages, which just excites the hell out of me. My hope and dream now is it gets printed in Spanish, because we know so many Spanish speaking people, and I'd like it to be available to the whole in the growing New Thought community that's in Mexico, because that is a very vibrant and alive, and Brazil and Puerto Rico and all of our Spanish speaking communities. But anyway, it is, I watched the news and I watched the DNC last night, and my favorite is to watch the comments afterwards. As you said, I didn't quite do the trolling because I was so engaged. I was so incredibly engaged in that. I've never watched a DNC before, or the for the Republic. Never in my life. That's embarrassing to tell you, but I've been, either busy raising a family or raising a center, a spiritual center. So this is the first time where I'm not consumed, where my life is not completely so consumed in specific bodies of people. And I feel that I can't afford to not care. Certainly can't afford to not care, but I know we're going to come back around to that. But I have last night I had a class near the end of this 6-week program I call cohort. It's a forgiving the shadow cohort, and it's very powerful. It's a master level conversation. We go very deep. We go into the weeds. We clean out what's in there, and we do the work. And I got emotional last night, even talking to my students, because really all I really want is for the work that I do to get into the hands of not only people that are familiar to me, but to that next layer of people. Because what people don't realize, there's a fair amount of unconscious suffering that people think is normal.
Yeah.
There's just this way of being that individuals do not know to question. They don't know to question it. They don't know to question when they marry the same person over and over again, or they attract the same kind of boss over and over again, or they get fired for the same reason from different jobs. And people are not aware very often that the patterns that keep them circling the drain are shadows. And there are a lot of people in the world that are not actively dealing with this stuff. I get it. That's fine. And maybe you're incredibly healthy. God bless you. But there is a whole population of people that have not been educated in a way to recognize that there's something running them, that there's a conditioning running them, that there's pain and suffering and trauma, running them. And, while the book isn't psychology, pure psychology, and it's definitely not to analyze oneself, I teach individuals the logical way to recognize what's going on, and I give them the tools to no longer be victim to their own creation.
Yeah. I find this so important such an important work, because I hear it all the time in conversation. I don't know why this keeps happening to me. Right.
Big
And that's like the giveaway. If it keeps happening to you, there's definitely a shadow operating here. And that's good news, because that means we can dig in, whether individually or in the company of a great facilitator like yourself. And I just flashed back to a conversation you and I had a number of years ago, where you helped me in probably 30, 40 minutes to identify a shadow that I could heal, and the work that could help to do that. And
glad it worked.
Thank you. And what's important to me is, I think a lot of people hear that word shadow and they immediately think this is scary and this is going to be ugly, and I don't like scary, and I don't like people seeing me when I'm vulnerable and ugly, and they shy away from the work. But it's really so liberating.
It totally is. And since especially since leaving the pulpit, I have always been a minister that has lived under the banner that basically that says, don't ask me to be what I'm not. Don't ask me to be what I'm not. And so the people who were my congregation, they would never be fazed by anything that would come out of my mouth. I was polite in the appropriate times, but if I slipped, they would just look and go, yep, that's Michelle. And the beauty of that is that and as I mature, face it, as I mature, as I facilitate more and more of these classes, because when I'm teaching, I'm learning. It's one and the same. And it's what I keep appreciating for myself, and what I keep promoting for other people to do, is to really embrace and find humor in those parts that you think are not lovable. Like, you just said about, what did you say about being frightened or something? What did you say?
People are scared, or they don't want to be seen by anyone as vulnerable, as ugly, the ugliness that they perceive they're going to go through in this work.
Well, and that is so poignant, because not only is that important, that literally should be seen as the direction. Anything that we think we want to avoid other people seeing. Now, and this is where it ties into my forgiveness work too, right? Because I might not want you to see that I wasn't the best wife and I left my husband, just as an example, and my children, right? If that's someone's situation.
Yep.
But by diving into it and facing it, and then forgiving oneself for whatever limitations were, we free up all this energy. And it's about, like, I love to admit in front of people now, I love scary movies. I watch revenge movies. And I even know psychologically why. I know where it stems from. But I'm tired of trying to, well, not tired of, I'm just not willing to present myself to you as anything other than who I am. Right. And it's about time that we stop hiding those aspects of ourselves. It's time. So, I went the other night and I saw the movie, the new Aliens movie with Romulus. Oh my God, it was so good. It was so scary. And I know that I have colleagues who look at me like, really? Or I've been in the company of colleagues where we've talked about football. And I'm like, yeah, I like football. Really? Like, very judgmental about anything that is, above the maybe the normal macho thing. I don't sit and watch football all day. I don't watch revenge movies all day. I don't watch scary movies all day. But I want you to know that's part of who I am.
Right.
I'm not showing up to deny those aspects of myself. And I want to encourage all individuals, really all individuals, to embrace those parts and recognize that they're there as a result of something, but our job is to love them, to
Mm,
love them, to love the shadow. Because you're right. There was, and Debbie Ford did a great job bringing shadow work to the world. She did a great job. Her book was always the one I recommended until I wrote my own, until I created my own course. The only issue I had is that if you didn't have guidance and a loving support system through Debbie's book, you could be left really in a fair amount of pain. It
mm,
was some of the things in that book, and I'm not trashing it. I still think it's a great book. Please don't get me wrong.
yeah.
But I required it from my practitioners, but I said to them, don't read it alone, read it as a group.
Yeah. There you go.
Because what you don't want is you don't want somebody re-traumatized.
Yep.
And so yeah, that's what I want to do. I want to bring or want to calm the fear about looking at the shadow. Because in my list of presuppositions, I say that the shadow is not dark or bad or anything like that. It is just a collection of the things that we have not liked about ourselves. And the sooner we uproot it and look at it and go, oh, you're not so scary, the sooner then we can let go of it and not be defined by it. It will define us until the time comes that we can look at it, bring it to the light, and love it.
Beautiful.
Mhm.
Okay, so that is also the perfect segue into how do we love what's going on in the world of politics right now? Because first I want to applaud you that you took time and actually watched the convention. It's been, and I watch the RNC every time as well. It's difficult, and I have to kind of tape my mouth shut, but otherwise the kids get scared when I start yelling at the TV, right? But I think it's important, and I actually had a great opportunity back in, it would have been 2012 when the DNC was here in Denver, and Barack Obama was nominated for his run for president, and I got to be there. I got a ticket, and I got to be in the stadium and see it and be a part of that energy and all the pageantry and all of it, everything that goes with it. And so now I'm really committed to making sure I watch these things, because if we don't, we kind of give up our voice. Even by not watching, we're giving up a part of us that needs to be aware of all of this.
Well, and I want to jump in here too, because I was also aware. This is what I feel good about. This is a reward. I keep referring to all these the freedom that I find is rewards. One of the rewards of doing this deeper work is that I'm not as easily duped in one direction or another. So I'm voting for Harris. I'm voting for Harris. And I'm sorry to any followers out there that think that that's, not cool. That's what I'm doing. I'm not telling you that's what you should do. But I listened to what she said. And while she's talking, I'm chatting with my husband going like, that's a big promise. Oh yeah. Do you want to go there? Like, I don't want to be duped even when I think I'm in support of someone.
Right.
So when I want to tie these two things together, because I know that's where you want to go. When we do our healing work, our shadow work, our forgiveness work, when we find the path where we're connected to the bigger essence of who we are, right? We will be less fooled. We will be more grounded. And while I want, it's not even so much I specifically want her, although I do now. What I want is not the other party.
Yeah.
And it's not even the party, it's the person at the top. I'm not using names on purpose, because I'm not giving any I'm not adding to the algorithm anymore that will have the, that. I'm not. I do that in my scrolling. I pass through anything that could appear like I'm having interest. Let me be clear about what I'm saying. That when we are clear, we are a way more objective, and we can hear wisdom and we can hear truth without being as duped. Otherwise, it would be easy to be duped. I mean, I've never listened to the convention before. It was exciting. I bet being on that floor was exciting. And I listened as objectively as I could and recognized that there were some leanings that might have been flowered a little bit, added a little more color to them. And that's okay. That's okay. But what I don't want to be is blind.
Yeah. And I see a lot of blind people out there that if you scroll through social media, a lot of folks that, as you share this, it becomes even more evident, have not healed their own shadows and are using those as projections into a national conversation.
Yeah.
And we hang on to things that have been proven to be false.
Yeah.
That fact checkers have proven this is not, and people like to hold on to those stories because
on both sides.
And yes, and on both sides, I will agree, absolutely. And I've always thought that I forget when I first heard it. Maybe it was with Jimmy Carter, right? That sometimes you have to vote for the lesser of two evils.
Yeah.
And as an ignorant, immature younger man, I believe that would be true. And there were times where I did vote for what I thought were the lesser of two evils. But that just perpetuates a sense of evil. That just perpetuates those damaging beliefs, if you will. And so I've got to be in that place where, as much as I don't like one side, as much as I don't agree with the policies that are being put forward, and I mean, I have read just enough of Project 2025 to scare myself. You do horror movies. I read political agendas, and they scare me.
Everybody should read that. No one should vote on when's the date? November 5th?
5th, November 5th.
No one should vote on November 5th until they've done their research into Project 2025.
Yeah. Unfortunately, there's going to be a lot of people that don't follow that advice. And I just want to come back real quick. So again, I think we have to vote with our vision. Who of all the candidates out there, RFK, Marianne Williamson, others, right? Whether they're active or they're not in this campaign, who is sharing a vision that is most aligned with your vision, with what you see for the future, with what you'd like to see in the future, and get out the vote for that, for a vision of where we're headed.
Right. Well, I do feel that her speech specifically, just her part of it, was she attempted, I know that there'll be great resistance on the other side, but she attempted to be very unifying. Her language, all of her language was extremely unifying. I was a little taken back by how strong she got at the end with a few of her things about the military, about Israel, and I was a little taken back by that because I have some reservations this is not where we're going right now. I have some reservations about those opinions, but you see, those reservations that live in me make me seek more information, and that's how I keep myself honest. And that's how I'll vote, more honestly. It was fascinating. I was on a hike the other morning with my son. He's 41, so adult male, and we're hiking, and I brought up about the convention. I said, "Wow, I've never watched it before. It was really interesting and entertaining, especially the roll call. The roll call was so entertaining. I never thought it could look like that, right?" And I told him who I wanted to vote for. He said, "Really?" He said, and I went, "What do you mean?" And then he brought up some opposing ideas. I thought, okay, this is a fascinating conversation. And he felt kind of strongly that he wants his vote not necessarily to support either of the extreme sides. And I said, babe, my concern about that is that your vote will almost not count. But he was, that was his determination. And I think a lot of our younger voters who are choosing not to be used by either the Republican side or the Democratic side are going there. I know, so we got to pay attention to that because we want to learn by those coming up.
Yeah.
We want to learn by them, Well,
I will chime in here real quick. My 19-year-old is adamant in who he's voting for, and adamant that he must vote, and adamant that and I think, and what I hear you saying, may not like everything in his chosen candidate's past, may not like, and as far as I know, he is not voting for Mr. Orange. So and I don't necessarily like everything in Harris's past. I think there's places where she made mistakes. I think there's places where she probably went along to get along, as it were. And if I boil all that down, I still see one person casting a vision and one person trying to take us back to something that can't be.
And let's be honest, and I'm going to do a little bit of true confessions here. Nobody gets to that level of political accomplishment without having to suck some things up.
Yep.
I don't think they all. I mean, God knows I madly love Pete Buttigieg. If I was God, he'd be president.
Right.
Because my sense of him is he's so grounded. So incredibly grounded. And the thought, the thought about putting a gay man in charge with his military background, but his sensitivities and his political, anyway, he's not. And I think that he would have probably kept her down had she taken him as a running mate, unfortunately, because I don't think the country has matured enough to be able to accept him.
We wouldn't be able to look at the stage last night with a woman over three men, because Pete would have had his husband on stage, her husband would be on stage. I don't think America is truly ready to see an image of a woman in leadership and have it so blatant that there's nothing else but men over there and she's on top of everything. And we needed to balance that. They needed to balance that ticket with, it's because, but that's part of it, right? And I don't think anyone in our movement, I don't think any minister in our movement hasn't in some way along the way toned down maybe what they wanted to say or agreed to let something happen that in their deeper self knew probably wasn't going to work, or right. We all make compromises. And I remember in practitioner training, God doesn't make compromises.
Right.
But we do.
And as a woman, when I chose to become a minister, the person who paved my way was my spiritual teacher that I had when I was younger. She's been gone for many years now. But I remember then, even while there's been more ministers than male ministers in this movement for decades, the fact that we weren't until recently represented at the top as much as we were.
Right.
And comments still can be found about a woman minister, a woman leader, a woman in charge. So I will tell you that part of me just wants a woman in the White House.
Yeah.
I wanted it with Hillary. I was devastated when he won. Devastated. Like, I don't cry over politics. Like, cried. Like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And yet Hillary wouldn't have been my woman of choice, you know. But Harris, yeah. Because my son said, well, you know, maybe the woman's going to make all the same mistakes that men make. And I agree. We're not superior in that way, but give us an opportunity to try and fail. Give us an opportunity to at least try, because
what makes men's mistakes more valuable than a woman's mistake? A mistake is a mistake, right?
So, yeah.
I see Harris on the ticket truly as an opportunity for the nation to begin the healing, to do more shadow work, to recognize that some of these prejudices that we've had, and the sexism that continues to this day, in so many aspects, right?
So many.
God forbid if the Republicans pass a resolution to cut her pay, because to cut the president's pay because she's a woman. It's like it's time for change, and it's time to keep moving forward, in my opinion.
The thing that I don't understand, how do educated people look at the opposing party? Not the party. I don't want to keep saying the party, because I'm really referring to the one person, although I'm a little frightened by those who have created Project 2025. And I feel very concerned about the financial influence that they have and the support that he has from the Christian right. I'm very concerned about that. And I'm very concerned because while I don't need anybody to do what I do, I'm concerned because there's indication that we're going to go backwards in our freedom. That concerns me. That really concerns me. And I don't understand how educated Republicans are. I can understand not liking everything, and I can understand wanting things different from the liberals. If I don't consider myself a liberal. I'm more middle road. Believe it or not, I believe that about myself. But I do. There's a whole middle of the country that is suffering. And do you really just not care about that whole population? I mean, so I don't understand how they look at some of the things that come out of his mouth and enthusiastically want to vote for him. And again, I can't stand to sit here and say to you, her record is perfect.
Right.
But as a leader, I can get behind her way more.
She would appear to, in my perspective, to have a lot more success in her chosen careers than he does.
Yeah.
If we really, but again, it then becomes a matter of perception of how you perceive success. And she said it last night in her speech, right? I have always been for the people.
Yeah.
Right. And Kamala Harris, for the people, as a public defender, as a public prosecutor, right? As whatever you want to call it, however you want to phrase it, I see her as being more successful in her chosen career than he was.
And I think some of the things she said at the end, specifically around that too, gave us what's his name, Simon Sinek, who I love and adore, in his book Start With Why. He talks about the celery test and what the celery test is about. It's not being tempted to do things that are outside your vision and your venue. It's about staying on point. And I think with the things that she said, we will be able to hold her feet to the fire, even with those simple things. The shorter, straightforward, the things where she was trying to unify us,
right?
Where she committed to be for the people. What did she say? For the people, not the party. People over party. Is that what she said?
I think to that effect, yes.
Yeah, to that effect. I don't know if that was it exactly. See, that's an easy thing to say. Kamala, you're veering off here. You're selling yourself out a little bit. Yeah. And I want to tie this back around too. In what can we do? We as individuals have got to do our own work, so we're not pulled around by our nose rings in one direction or another. We gotta remember who we are, why we're here, what it is we love about this country. Because I guess it was something she said. So I was there trying not to be duped and get caught up in it, right? When she said, America is the best country in the world. Not right now.
Yeah.
Not right now. Our economics are not. Our education system, we are failing our children. And a commentator said this post convention, while she's talking about some of these things, I don't know why it didn't even happen more under the presidency of Biden.
Right.
I like that she's willing to take on she didn't say take on the NRA. She didn't say that, but I like that she has that so much as a focus, right? But I look at some of these things, and I've been watching other politicians have their hands tied for years. Yep. And I don't feel very faithful that she will immediately be able to not have her hands tied. So again, we have to be able to look at the promises, look straight in the eye of the one promising, and not get caught up in the enthusiasm, but say, really, I'm going to hold you to that. Yeah. I mean, that was very powerful, having that group of people. I'm avoiding getting emotional. I will never, ever forget the day of Sandy Hook, because I walked into a hairdresser, and I was sitting there waiting for my turn, and they had the radio blasting overhead. Mm-hmm. And it came on about what was going on at the school. And I don't put television on in the morning or radio much, so I didn't know until I got out of the house. And I could not believe that the people in the shop looked like it was just another day. I was so overcome. I said out loud, "Are you guys all hearing this?" Like, to me, I almost devolved into a puddle of tears and horror. How did that not prompt our lawmakers to stand up to the NRA? And again, I grew up with guns in my house. We're not talking about taking guns away. We are talking about restrictions to who can have them without responsibility. I mean, come on. So that's when that woman from the Sandy Hook, the school teacher, got up there, I just started sobbing at that whole segment.
I think there was a definite, and we're going to run out of time long before we get a chance to fully explore this topic, folks, because I also believe in responsible gun control. I think responsible gun regulation. I think we need licensing and insurance and all the things you have to do to have a car or a drone or any other thing.
Right. Seems logical, right?
Seems very, very logical. And there was definitely an undertone yesterday that again didn't aggressively attack or say directly we're going after the NRA.
Right.
Because truthfully, that, in my opinion, the NRA is just a symptom of the problem. It's a very powerful symptom. It's a symptom that we spend a lot of time, and the symptom spends a lot of time and energy trying to have its way.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, the deeper question is, how do we create a society where we're less in fear, less feeling in need of guns as personal protection, and for sport, for hunting, but it's gotten to the point where we just allow almost anyone to carry a gun anywhere they want. And I shared this about a year or so ago. There was I live in a pretty safe neighborhood when it comes down to it, and even the whole city that we live in is very safe compared to many places. And there's a man walking down the street with a gun on his hip, with his wife's hand, and I look around and I'm like, I see people every day walking in these streets, walking their dogs, going to the park with their kids. Not one of them needs a gun. Mm. And so what is it that makes you so afraid that you need to carry a gun with you? Yeah. I don't get that, because I don't see.
I can get that, because they are part of the population of people who are believing the rhetoric and who are not standing in their own personal power. The work that we do, the work that you do as the kind of minister that you are, the work that you promote, the work that this channel promotes, the work that Centers for Spiritual Living promotes, the work that Unity and Divine Science and Anton and AG&T and all of these, INTA, Agape, all of these organizations are promoting a teaching and understanding that if I can shed what's in the way, I get to stand in my personal power. And in that personal power, I also don't have to be afraid. Man. I mean, the whole story about the Aztecs. They wonder, were the Aztecs living at such a vibration that they just kind of elevated, so I don't know that I'm saying something that strange, but I do believe the more we elevate ourselves, the more we will invite others to elevate themselves and stop being afraid of each other.
Yeah. Do our personal work first. All right. The book is Shadow Work, Reverend Dr. Michelle Wadleigh. I think Amazon tells me it's going to be delivered on the 24th of September. I'm not 100%
Did it say 24th?
Sure.
Oh my God. By the way, I want to share a piece of news. You're the first for me to say it. My publisher has also decided to republish my forgiveness work. So I'm going to have my forgiveness work and my shadow work both in the big stores a year from now. It's going to take a year, but I'm very excited about that. So
wonderful, beautiful. Oh, that is great news. Yeah, so, folks, our special guest today has been Reverend Dr. Michelle Wadleigh. Her website's going across the bottom of the screen. Please keep up with the work that she is doing. And you're you used to be a regular on the network. Now we're getting you a little less regularly. You're semi-irregular. I don't know. That was a bad analogy. My apologies. But you're always welcome. And please feel free. I know, and actually, I think you're going to be on Dr. Tracy Brown's show, The Integral Church, coming up here sometime soon. So keep an eye out for that, folks.
And with Allie Benjamin, The Growing Edge.
and with Allie Benjamin, the Growing Edge Live. Yep, that she does great. You'll have a really fun time on that program.
Yeah, she's doing great work. Your station's doing great. I'm very proud of you and the work you're all doing.
Thank you. All right, folks, we're going to get out of here for now, but please stay with us throughout the day. All of our normal programming starts 10 seconds ago. So that's what I love about being in the seat I am. If we go over, we go over a little. So, but we're going to get out of here for now, folks. Thanks for being with us. Until next time, we wish you peace and richest blessings. Bye now.
Bye. Bye.
And thanks for listening to this week's episode of Ministers Talking. We'll be back again next week with more commentary on current affairs, world events, and any other our ministers want to talk about. And if you found value here, please share our with your friends. Until next time, peace and blessings.